we can go ahead and get started and just let people filter in as they join on. But welcome everybody to our February SNDYE event. And for those of you that are new to SNDYE, we are the Young Executives Division of Success North Dallas, and we have monthly educational events and happy hours to bring our peers together and just develop strong professional networks, grow personally and professionally, and really to advance our careers. So we are so excited to have y'all join us today. And we have an amazing speaker, Randy Mayeux, lined up, and we'll be doing some Q&A after. So feel free as we're going along in the presentation to just send any questions you have in the chat, and then we can enter them at the end. So I've included, there's a link in the chat. Actually, I might have to repaste that in there. Let me see here. Here's the link to the, let me see here, the book synopsis for today called Atomic Habits by James Clear, which Randy will be covering today. So feel free to have that pulled up while he's talking. And just a tip, you can actually pin Randy's video while he's speaking to see him in full view. So go ahead and try that. And then just to get us started, I would love for everyone to type in the worst habit that you have right now and that you just wish you could break. It can be anything, like at work, at home. It could be biting your nails, running late to meetings, cutting the split ends off of your hair while you're bored, like I do, instead of doing something productive. So write anything in the chat right now. Snacking. Oh, that's another one of mine too.
Oh my.
Eating too many sweets, picking fingernails, saying when speaking, too much on internet. I gotta read this one. I hold my breath when I walk by people who are dirty. That is too funny. That's so great. Procrastinating, cutting nails extremely short, not enough sleep. That's awesome. Those are a lot of great bad habits. So thank you guys for sharing those. So Randy will be talking more about those. But yeah, so we'll be also doing a drawing for a few copies of the book that Randy will be covering today called Atomic Habits by James Clear, as well as a gift certificate to 12 Cuts Brazilian Steakhouse. So stay on until the end since you have to be present to win. And then without further ado, I'd love to introduce to you our speaker, Randy Mayeux. So for over the last 23 years, Randy has presented synopses of best-selling business books at the First Friday Book Synopsis in Dallas, and for many other corporate clients in the area. And he also provides synopses of a wide range of business books to help others advance their business thought leadership capabilities. And he also presents book briefings on social justice and poverty at the Urban Engagement Book Club, which is really cool. In addition to his regular offerings, he's also presented on the threat of Al-Qaeda, the ongoing energy challenges, the financial crash, and the challenges facing the healthcare industry in this country. So let's just say he's very well-rounded, and we are really looking forward to this presentation. So please help me welcome Randy.
Thanks, Kirsten. And good midday, everybody. It's not morning, it's not quite afternoon, so we'll go with midday. I hope that you have a copy of the handout. I am very handout intensive. It is in the chat. I'm going to drop it in one more time. If you did not print it out, if you've got a printer handy, print it out. You'll want to use it. And if you have handy a blank sheet of paper or a 3x5 card, I want to do a little thing with a blank sheet of paper or a 3x5 card. And of course, keep a pen handy. So you got a pen, a handout, and a 3x5 card. Thanks to Kirsten and to Young Executives Success North Dallas, and thanks to Bill Wallace and Jan Klodner and Bronwyn Allen. And I think Shelby is the president or the head person at the moment of this group. I'm honored to speak to you. And if all of you have totally conquered every bad habit, and you are totally a person with great discipline, and you have great habits, you can leave now. Goodbye. But for the rest of us, we're going to need some help in thinking about getting rid of bad habits and having better habits. Sometimes when I do my book presentations, and my job in a synopsis is to tell you what is in the book. I'll throw in a few things that are from me, but I do not choose books that I don't agree with, and I choose very good books. And this book, Atomic Habits, subtitled An Easy and Proven Way to Build Good Habits and Break Bad Ones, this is kind of the Bible of habits. I would have said the Bible of habits a few years ago was The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. I have also presented a synopsis of that book. It is a very good book, and it has some undergirding foundation that James Clear in this book quotes and refers to. But this book is actually a better book in the practical realm of how to build good habits. I'm fond of saying that there is no one book that teaches you everything you need to know about a subject. And so if you were serious about studying habits, I would study The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and then I would read and study Atomic Habits by James Clear. There is a section in The Power of Habit that I want to mention, and it's about the habit of safety in corporate culture in a story from Alcoa in the 1990s, or maybe even 1980s. It's a really good story about building a corporate culture good habit around safety. I'm not going to elaborate further now, but I want you to understand that there are personal habits, there are personal work habits, and there are corporate habits. I've had enough interaction through the years with high profile with Bronwyn Allen and the team she builds that I will tell you they have some elements in their culture that are admirable and noticeable. They excel at being friendly. And that is a great habit to have, is to be friendly. So that comes to mind as I'm thinking about that. But right now, take your 3x5 card, and you might be able to see mine. I've got a line drawn down the middle, and I've got bad habits and good habits. So write that down on a 3x5 card or half a sheet of paper, bad habits and good habits. And in the book, he actually does not like those phrases. He says that you ought to use, I don't want you to write it this way, ineffective habits and effective habits. But I think we understand and resonate with bad and good. And so I want you to just jot down 2 or 3 bad habits that you have that you need to overcome, or a bad habit you had that you did overcome. That would be great. So just jot that down, kind of think about it a minute. And I'm going to write down a couple here. And one of the ones that I'm writing down, I'm going to confess to you, is about biting my fingernails. And I had that defeated, and it kind of has come back during the COVID pandemic. So these bad habits lurk and return more than we want them to. So that's one that I'm writing down. Now, I want you to write down in the column on the right, good habits. I want you to write down a habit or two that you have that's a good habit. And I want you to write down a habit or two that you wish you had. And so this is kind of your, let me think about me, and don't forget work. Do you have a bad habit in the way you work? Do you have a good habit in the way you work? So bad habit, good habit. Keep this handy. You'll come back to it. And I encourage you to let, since we're doing this today, let the rest of this week be a week that you think about your habits. You may want to reread this handout carefully after we finish, and then you can work on getting rid of some of those bad habits and aiming towards good habits. Let me just mention quickly that you can't fix it all at once. You cannot fix it all at once. I read something years ago about improvement overload. You cannot improve everything at once. So you pick one bad habit and then one good habit and work on them diligently. Okay, if you'll take the handout and turn inside to page 2. the first inside page, page 2. I'm going to just read a little here, and then we're going to jump forward, and I'm going to tell you a bunch of stories from the book. And the stories are great. He's a good storyteller. All right, right here on page 2 in the little box right there on the left under the book cover image, what is the point? Your life is the living out of your habits, all of your habits, your good habits and your bad habits. This book will help you build a more productive life and fulfill your potential one small habit at a time. So that's the purpose of this book. On the right, here are 3 reasons why this book is worth our time, right here. Number 1, we do too many things we do not want to do. And we fail to do things we want to do. We need fewer bad habits and more good habits. This book will help. Number 2, we act without thinking. Circle that phrase. We act without thinking in ways that are not good for us. We need to act without thinking in more ways that are good for us. This book will help. For those of you who know athletics, sports, there's a phrase in sports called muscle memory. And muscle memory means that your body automatically does what its muscles have learned to do. And so if you have a bad golf swing, you are reinforcing that bad golf swing with muscle memory every time you hit a golf ball. If you have a good golf swing, you are reinforcing that muscle memory the right way every time you hit your good golf swing. And the bad news is baseball players and golfers and tennis players hire personal coaches. And one of the things those coaches watch for are bad habits in the swings of the baseball bat, the tennis racket, or the golf club. Number 3, we need some tips on how to build those good habits and how to abandon those bad habits. This book will help with many such tips. Okay, let's turn all the way inside the handout to page 9 near the end. Page 9 near the end. This is the part of the outline where I pull out the principles and the stories of the book, and I elaborate on those. And on the left, I kind of have some critical top thinking from the book. And the top item is not in the book. For fun and escape, I read mysteries and thrillers. And one of my current favorites, he's actually number 3 on my list. I have Nero Wolfe as number 1, and Daniel Silva, Gabriel Alon as number 2, and number 3 is Orphan X, written by Greg Hurwitz. And Orphan X is an assassin turned good guy helping people out, and he has 10 commandments. This is the second commandment from Orphan X. It is worth circling and remembering. How you do anything is how you do everything. How you do anything is how you do everything. I actually read that exact quote from Bob Iger in the book called The Ride of a Lifetime. He's the CEO of Disney. This concept is critical. You learn to do things the right way, and how you do everything the right way is how you do anything and everything the right way. And then below that, epigraph, this is from the book, atomic, an extremely small amount of a thing, the single irreducible unit of a larger system, the source of immense energy or power. And so the idea of atomic habits is not explosive habits, but small habits at the smallest level that you build, and then you build a life based on these small habits. And then the word habit itself is a routine or practice performed regularly, an automatic response to a specific situation. And so you build your habits one small habit at a time so that your actions become automatic. That's the idea. So on the right, the main story of the book, and then many other stories. And all of these reinforce some element of building good habits. The first story, and I'm reading from the bullet points. The boy who was hit in the face with a baseball bat nearly died and rebuilt his life one habit at a time. Here's the story. The author of this book, James Clear, was a good high school baseball player. He had envisioned going on to college and playing baseball in college and then becoming a professional baseball player. He was on track where that was a possibility. He was good enough that that could have happened, and he was really on track to make it happen. He was a good, disciplined, serious baseball player. And in a freak accident, a bat broke, twirled around, and hit him in the head. Nearly killed him. They airlifted him to the hospital. He was not himself. He was told that he had lost cognitive ability. That ability meant he had lost physical ability because of the connection to the cognitive ability. He was told, among other things, that he would not be playing baseball anymore, and his entire life crumbled in front of him in one moment. And somehow he was smart enough that he figured out he had to relearn how to do things one tiny habit at a time. He started studying habits with his ability that he had at the moment. And so he started building habits. He actually did play baseball again. At a small college, he became the captain of that baseball team. He was not as good a player as he would have been, but he was good enough, and with his discipline and his habits, to make that small college team. And then he started building a life around the idea of building habits. And so one of the things he did when he got out of college, and by the way, there's some really other interesting stories about people who have had some form of brain injury. I spoke this week for a group called BIND, B-I-N-D. And that's a group that Carl Crayer, my former colleague at First Friday Book Synopsis, has been involved in because he had a stroke, and they help people who have had strokes with brain injury. And so it's a very serious, slow process, and you can get all the help. You need all the help you can get. So this author, he made it through college, and then he started writing. And he wrote a blog post 2 times every week, and that's how he learned to write, by writing blog posts, 2 posts a week. He would write them on the same day. It became a habit, and then that habit expanded, and he ended up writing books, including and especially this book. All right, the next bullet point, the nerd fitness class, and this is really fun. One of the things the book says is that if you are not surrounded by people who will help you live up to your habit that you want to form and keep, then you won't keep it. And so there's a guy who's a nerd. He's a computer coding guy. He's a nerd. He doesn't have any social skills. And he wanted to go get his body in better physical condition, better health. And so he went to workout classes, and everybody wanted to meet him. And he just didn't want to talk to anybody. He's not social. And so he put up a notice, hey, if you're a nerd and don't like talking to people, let's get together and have an exercise class, and I promise you won't have to talk to anybody. And he ended up attracting people who came and worked out, but never greeted each other. didn't talk to each other. They kind of nodded and then worked out and then left. And so one of the things you're going to see it in a few minutes is you've got to find your tribe to help you build your good habits. So that's kind of a cool idea. There's a story in the book, I'm on the next bullet point, the British cycling team, and they began to aim, and this is a big deal, circle this phrase, for 1% improvements. 1% improvements. There's a lot of new literature about what happens over the long haul if you keep aiming at 1% improvement. And so this cycling team, led by Sir Dave Brailsford, he had a relentless commitment to a strategy that he referred to as the aggregation of marginal gains, 1% improvements, which was the philosophy of searching for a tiny margin of improvement in everything you do. So one of the things he did on this British cycling team is that he got a new bicycle truck, and he found ways to keep it pristine clean. And then the bicycles, these are the racing bicycles that the team members race, the bicycles were kept pristine clean. They cleaned them after every ride in a better way, and they kept them pristine clean in this very safe and clean truck. And that got rid of dust that got into the bicycle that would slow the bicycle down. And those little improvements began to add up. Now, the author acknowledged they also used steroids and got caught. So that was a side issue on that. But pristine, clean, small improvements. Circle this next phrase. It's really big. Advanced decision making. Advanced decision making. And the story here is wardrobe choices. And it's a story told by Michael Lewis about Barack Obama. So let me tell you the story. When President Michael Lewis, who wrote The Blind Side and Moneyball and The Big Short, and has a new book coming out on the threat of the next pandemic. It's going to be big. Michael Lewis followed Barack Obama around for a few months and interviewed him many times, and then wrote a major profile, I think in Vanity Fair. I read it, I just don't remember where. And one of the things he noticed is that when Obama would eat, somebody would just bring him food and he would eat. And he literally observed that when Obama got ready in the morning, he'd just reach into his closet and grab anything to wear. And what Obama told him was that when he became president, he researched decision making. And he found out that every small decision you make, what to wear, what to eat, what radio station to turn on, what music to turn on, every small decision drains your decision-making muscle for bigger decisions. So he said, I made sure all of my suits, all of my shirts, all of my shoes, and all of my ties went together. So I just grabbed whatever I grabbed, and I met with the people who cooked my food, and I said, here are the things I don't want, here are the things I do want, here's the health parameters I want, and he would eat whatever they gave him. And so all of that was advanced decision-making so that he could make better decisions. You can see something in all of these stories I'm telling. There's a story about expertise built over the long haul. And so he tells a story about a nurse who noticed a change in a human face and said, you need to go to the hospital. You have a heart problem. They went to the hospital, and had they not gone at that moment, they might have died. And it was just something the nurse noticed. So that was quite a story. And the hairdresser fixing a woman's hair asked the woman, when is your baby due? And the woman said, I'm not pregnant. And she says, yeah, you are. I can tell from your hair. And the woman did not yet know that she was pregnant. So this was the habitual attention to women's hair. I don't begin to understand that. And then there's a funny story about a former kindergarten teacher who went to work in corporate America. And when people were walking back from the bathroom, she would say to her fellow coworkers, "Did you wash your hands?" So imagine that being asked in a corporate work. And then there's a practice called pointing and calling. There are stories about bad habits that harmed people in train stations, and then other bad habits that let things slip by. So train workers practice pointing and calling. I've shut the door. I've gotten the tickets. I've checked the sidewalk or the walkway. And so they say it out loud, and reducing errors by 85% and accidents by 30%. Pointing and calling is effective because it raises the level of awareness from a non-conscious habit to a more conscious level. Operators must use their eyes and hands and mouth and ears. So he tells the story of a woman who, when leaving the house, would say aloud, "I've got my keys, I've got my wallet, I've got my glasses, I've got my husband. Now I can go." So pointing and calling. And I will tell you personally that when I go to the grocery store with a list, first of all, I don't do much of the shopping, but when I do, I need a list. And I actually say quietly, nobody can hear it but me, when I